Welcome to Real Talk Christian Podcast, where we drink coffee and have real conversations on faith, culture, and society. This is Marc, Hyde.
And Chris Fuller.
You know, you may have heard that old saying back in the day, there's only two things sure in life, Fuller: death and taxes. But today we're asking the question, is there more to life than death and taxes? So, Fuller, you ready to have this conversation?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Marc, Hyde, what's going on?
What's up, Robotic Fuller? Bro, we are pre-caffeinated for this episode.
We are overly caffeinated.
We are ready to rock and roll. Okay, so before we jump in, I gotta call a spade real quick before I do that, do a prep. Did you know that Spotify has like comments on their episodes?
I read your comment or your post on the Facebook group page, which if you haven't joined already, jump over to Facebook, Real Talk Christian Podcast Community, and join now.
Well, over 1,000 people over there hanging out, and there's new posts every single day.
Oh, there's so many posts.
There's memes, there's questions.
There's so many posts, I can't even keep up with them all.
I can't. And so if you've made posts and you're asking questions and Fuller, which let's be honest, the group's not about us,
it's
guys.
Not. It's about the community. It's about you guys connecting.
So if your boys don't respond, it's because we missed it. So I try really hard to get all of them.
You are way better at it than I am.
But either way, so now Spotify has this thing where we can actually put our own questions into our episodes.
I saw that.
And so there's an automatic one of like, what do you think of the episode? And there's been a lot of comments, which is awesome. I'm like, I didn't know this was a thing.
But I can't see them because you're the host.
Well, I'll give you the password. So, but it's not on Spotify. You have to go into the official Spotify for Podcasters portal. Because I was trying to see, I'm like, okay, so how many reviews we got over there? Because it doesn't tell us anymore. It just says like 1.1 thousand, and which is still pretty dope. So I was like, I just want to see what it does. Like, what's the back end look like? Because it tells you how many start of episodes, how many full plays, how many people. And I mean, I think I'll have to look. The numbers of how many individual people have at least listened to an episode is staggering. Like, I'm going to look between episodes. But so there's been comments. And so there's been a lot of comments that have been like reviews. So if we haven't read your review and you left it on there on Spotify, please email it to us so we know, because that's pretty sneaking dope. But a lot of people are like, man, cut to the banter. We don't want the banter. We don't get right to the episode, which we feel you. But if you want to get right to the real conversation, go listen to a sermon.
Well, so here's we're doing.
In the words of Zoe Reagan.
This is the worship section right here.
That's true.
No, but if you don't like listening to the banter, here's a quick tip for you. Maybe we should put this at the beginning of every episode. Go ahead and skip through to about minute 15. And you're pretty close right around there, because usually about 15 to 20 minutes most of the time.
Yeah, so if you're new to the podcast, this is maybe your first couple episodes. The whole purpose of what we do here is we want to hang out with you guys. We want to be your morning commute. We want to be your morning talk show. I mean, shoot, even Jimmy Fallon does his little like those aren't very good always, but his little monologues at the beginning of late night. But,
my favorite late night television monologue-ish type thing.
Jay Leno?
No.
Oh.
Conan O'Brien's In the Year 2000.
It
was before Y2K, and then it went after Y2K, and then there was a song where one of the band guys used to go, in the year 2000, in the year 2000, and then they would do like, in the year 2000. Like, I remember, and it was pretty funny because it was
Did you watch this live?
Oh, yeah. I stayed up late for it.
I was like 8
But it's like,
or 9.
In the year 2000, there will be flying cars. Oh, no, wait, that was in the year 10,000. It's like, in the year 2000.
Dude, Conan was the man of late night.
Yeah, it was awesome, man.
And then, Jay Leno was always a steady guy. David Letterman was a steady guy.
Right.
And then Jimmy Fallon took over. Like, he swept it because of YouTube.
His karaoke stuff. Have you ever like the
carpool? No, carpool karaoke is that's James Corbin.
Yeah,
which he's been in a whole heap of issues lately.
And he stole that from Jimmy Fallon. Used to have the mashup karaoke where they do like some weird subject and then they had to sing it to a certain song. It was great.
And so Jimmy Fallon was like the OG. Now his stuff with Justin Timberlake, like him and JT way back in the day,
dude,
that stuff was golden.
Oh man, I love it.
Absolute gold.
So him and JT always do them spoofs of like when they were younger and stuff like that. Yeah, well,
like summer camp.
Yeah, the summer camp.
Oh man.
Coming out of Africa. It was
That was some good stuff. But, the point of this, not the point of the banter, but it's really the idea of the fact of we've had so many of you guys reach out to us in the Facebook group, email, text, whatever. You guys, I feel like I'm hanging out with you guys as friends. So if you're new to the episode, buckle up. We're hyper. We got caffeine. We got crazy, stupid stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, we also get into the good conversations,
and I
too.
think Sabrina's on our Facebook group page.
Sabrina's an OG. Come on now.
And so she put it best when she said, well, what it is it's cool to have the banter. It's us hanging out. We want to become friends with you guys, and this is kind of your way to getting to know us.
It's true.
And then it helps kind of ease us in because a lot of our topics are pretty heavy topics. Some are pretty light, but
and sometimes I'm trying to avoid getting into the topic.
A lot of them are pretty heavy topics, so it's just something light and airy to get us going, and then we throw the baby at you. Not literally, but you know what I mean.
I do find, I'm scrolling through all the comments right now. I will say Carissa probably nailed it. She goes, I like the banter for the new episodes that come out, but if I'm going back to listen to the old ones, I skip the banter and get right to the meat.
Whoa. That's because the banter back then was like, hey, Mark, how are you today? Which is why I did that in the beginning. It's like very cut and dry. We listened last week. We pulled up episode 1 just to listen to the first intro. And it's like, welcome to a Real Talk Christian Podcast. We drink coffee and have real conversation on faith, culture, and society. I'm Marc Hyde, and this is Chris Fuller. And today's episode, we're going to talk about this. So, Chris, how you doing? I'm doing good, Mark. How are you? I'm doing really good.
Good. Let's jump in the episode.
So today's episode, we're talking about, and it's like, it was like a whiplash almost, and so it just.
I will crack. Yeah. It does crack me up. Though,
it was honestly your idea to bring kind of like the banter of like, hey, let's let people get to know us a little bit.
Yeah, and so this used to be a game.
Yeah, it started off as a game, and now it's just kind of like we did banter and game for a while, and that seemed to get really long, and now it's just like kind of banter and. We ask weird questions and talk about weird things and kind of.
Normally, it starts with one of us saying or doing something stupid, and then I chase that rabbit down a hole. That's kind of what it ends up being.
Okay, you're giving away our secret formula
my
banter.
Bad.
But no, we always claim to be the Ryan and Kelly of podcast.
And it's very obvious who's who.
Yeah,
I'm Michael Strahan. So.
I thought you were Gilman.
I don't even know who that is.
Gilman? I think we've had this conversation before.
We probably have. But, there's a lot of people where it's like, even Beth was like, sometimes I love it. Then there's other times where she's like, if I wasn't married to you, I'd kill you right now. Like, oh, thanks, babe. Love you too.
Maybe,
she didn't say that.
Maybe in the show notes, I'll start putting forward. If you want to skip past the banter at the very end.
Minute mark 15.
Yeah, just start marking it.
But, so we got to be somewhere in season 5 at this point. But we are prepping for Revive Fest. So we were having all these conversations to get ready for Revive Fest. And my coffee's gone. I don't have.
Well, so data recording. We're 7 days out from Revive Fest,
July 14th. Oh, it's my brother's birthday. My baby brother.
Happy birthday!
My baby brother's. Oh shoot! How old are you now, bro? 20. Are you? No.
John?
No, Chris.
Oh, Chris. Chris is your baby brother.
Is he 25?
I don't. Why are you asking me, bro?
Oh shoot!
I can't believe you. Did you wish him a happy birthday, at least?
I did. I texted him. I actually sent him a real text, not a group message.
Wow.
Not a Facebook comment underneath Jamie's post of him.
Not just one of the GIFs that's like, happy birthday, Sparkle.
No, I said happy birthday. And Jamie got him a shirt that said, tattoos are for felons. And like in a weird, like, that's stupid, funny, because he has tats all over his arms.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's got some unique.
So
he got some cool ones.
Anyways.
But anywho, to lean into the coffee that we're drinking, all I have to say is, Fuller finally made vitamin water coffee for me.
I did. I made flavored water.
It wasn't so strong where I thought I was growing hair.
So I did.
You know those saying like, I'll put some hair on your chest.
I did like 2 less scoops than what I normally do, and I compared to the rest of like my in-laws, I make the coffee weak, and Janelle hates it. She's like, wait.
Yeah. So the coffee that we naturally drink
is weak coffee to Janelle and her family.
Does she drink like pure molasses or sludge?
It's thick. Let me tell you. And that's like,
Janelle, go to Pilot for that. If you want some trucker stop coffee, go to Pilots or Love's.
No, she likes good coffee, but she likes it full body thick.
Oh, that's
that's why she likes the Fuller. No, but. So I made it even weaker. I'm just moving on past it.
Janelle she likes her salsa and her coffee. Thick and chunky.
Thick, full bodied.
Thick and full body.
But yeah, anyway,
Soul City Rose, baby.
So I make it weaker than her, and I'm like, okay, this is tolerable. And you're like, that's too strong. And so I made it even weaker.
Well, yeah, because it tastes like syrup.
It's like 6 scoops less than what Janelle does.
It tastes like, hey, here's some Pepto-Bismol for your coffee.
No, it doesn't. It tastes like chewing a coffee bean. That's what it tastes like.
I just poured water all over me because I was laughing too hard. So I was like, I peed myself. Anyways, so you made it Marc level.
So I did.
I'm not going to lie.
It was good.
Your coffee's always good. I drink that way too fast, and my tongue is burnt now.
Ooh,
because I drink it way. Well, it's also the Yeti. It's. But so either way, so we're drinking the same stuff from a local coffee shop by Toccoa Coffee.
Toccoa Coffee.
And they make a special blend for that coffee shop.
Yeah, the Heritage Meeting House.
Right over there.
Which is right down the road from us. And
which I have to go to Advance Auto anyways tomorrow morning, so I might have to swing by.
You should swing by.
I probably should.
It's pretty awesome, man. It's a good place to go. Well, you'd probably like to go there and do
actually,
some work.
I'm going to Delightful Donuts tomorrow up at that new donut shop in Edwardsburg. We're going there tomorrow morning.
It was phenomenal. I think your wife said it was phenomenal.
Yep, and because Beth is from Knoxville, which if you don't know Knoxville, they are weirdly obsessive about their donuts. And so
because they're from the South.
But the people who started that went to Knoxville and did donut shop
and
hopping.
Found the best and
brought it back. So she's like, this is the best donut since I've left Knoxville.
I broke my diet today, and some guy brought in donuts for us at work.
But that's loving your neighbor.
It is.
That's not breaking it. I think that's what Jesus would want you to do.
Well, I always me and my neighbor joked that calories don't exist on Christmas and Thanksgiving, so I'm going to say it for that too.
Anytime you at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, right. That's God's food.
That's God.
Anyways,
that's holy.
So this donut was the best donut I've ever had.
And where was it from?
I was someplace up in Lansing.
Lansing, Michigan?
Yeah.
Why the heck did they bring donuts from
Because
Lansing?
that's where he's from. So he stopped and swung down here from Lansing. This guy.
What?
Yep. And so the donut was maple. It was like a maple long john with no filling.
But was
really
it
good
bacon?
And it had bacon, covered in bacon. And I was like,
You know that's Beth's favorite, right?
Oh, dude, it was
bacon maple donut. That is Beth's favorite donut.
It was a smoked bacon too. So it was like had the smoke. It wasn't overly smoky. It had a nice smoked bacon flavored with like a slight sweet to it from the maple. It was like heaven. I'm in heaven.
I feel really bad for Jews.
My arteries just went, we're gonna kill you.
Or were they worshiping Jesus with you?
Well, that too. But yeah, so donuts. They're.
So we're really excited for that. But at some point I'll get over to that coffee shop. But dude, I will say this is probably one of the better coffees I've had.
It's a good coffee.
Not that you make bad coffee, but this is really good.
This is a good flavored water.
So
but anyways,
did we talk at all last week? But we talked about gas station coffees last week,
yes,
right?
Yep, we already covered.
We've already covered gas station coffees, other coffees. We covered it.
So
all.
Why don't we jump into the review, because we got a lot going on tonight, and this
is going to hopefully be a good conversation.
I hope it is. I'm looking forward to death and taxes. Or is there more to life?
About to say, you might want to check yourself before you wreck yourself, there, homie. Nobody wants taxes.
But before we get into that conversation, Mark, we have another review to read. And again, we love reading the reviews because if you're tuning in now, by the way, this is minute 12 and a half. So we can go ahead and mark the 12 and a half down so I know to put it in the show notes.
Okay.
And then that way, so people can pick up here. But the reviews you guys leave help us get into the ears of other listeners. If you haven't left a review, please leave a review to help get the message out. And if you like the podcast, especially, even if you don't like the podcast, we'll read your review. If you leave a review, we still do give away mini swag bags. Reach out to us in a DM or on Messenger or
with the 2.0. Maybe we have new stickers.
Dude,
aren't those swag bags?
I was thinking about buying more. They're pretty dope. They're pretty dope.
It's a secret sticker. Okay, keep going.
It's a secret stash. If you guys wouldn't mind leaving us a review, we'd really appreciate it. And today's review comes from 3637294.
What's the song?
3679. Oh no, wait. What is it? Stacy, I got your number. I'm gonna make you mine. 8675309.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was that number or if this is someone's cell that we got. Someone's got to call it. Someone call this number and find out.
3637294. What's the area code though? That's the thing.
I don't know.
So anyways, it says, I just want to say that I appreciate you guys and the quality of the content. It's so nice to have a show that builds me up and that discusses issues that actually matter. Question or discussion idea. Ooh, I like this one. John chapter 8, the woman caught in adultery. Why didn't Jesus condemn her if he came to fulfill the law? Also, I know there's no answer. If you had to guess, what did Jesus write on the ground? Love the show.
Whoa. Can I blow some brains?
Let's blow it.
Most people don't even think that was in the original Greek.
I know. When I first read that, I was like, what? They thought that was added in the late 2nd century, was it?
I don't remember the time frame, but it's more the idea of, because there's people, and I'm not, look, yeah. I still hold true to, if it's in our Bible, that I'm going to believe that God's got because if we believe the Holy Spirit sanctifies it and sets it apart. But in my idea why he didn't, it was the fact that if he goes, well, there's no accusers, so, and she's a victim, in my opinion, she was a victim.
Well, and again,
she was set up, and where's the dude?
Where's the dude? What was the purpose of the law? It was to point to Christ. That's why he was the fulfillment of the law. It wasn't like, hey, I'm coming down as a rule. You got to follow the rules. That's what the Pharisees thought, and they were called whitewashed tombs.
And it shows that we stand before a holy God, condemned.
And him coming to fulfill the law by shedding his blood on the cross, she was no longer condemned. What is that? Romans chapter 8, verse 1. I think that's what it is. I'm going to read it.
But the other thing that I want to know too with this is the fact that she was caught butt naked or buck naked. She was caught and then dragged to the feet of Jesus. And my question is A, who set her up for that? Y'all nasty. And then number 2, where's the dude? Because even in this culture, the dude had a lot more weight of responsibility. So if this was a setup just to get her caught, all right, my opinion is she did what was wrong, yes, but I'm not trying to play a victim mentality, but I'm also like, she was set up to fail. And Jesus said, I know everyone hates you and wants to see you fail, but I'm going to restore you as my own.
It was a lesson to them and a lesson to her. But Romans chapter 8, verse 1 says, therefore there is no condemnation for those in Christ Jesus, because the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus has set you free from the law of sin and of death.
Come on.
Chapter 8, verses 1 and 2
and
of Romans.
And if you free indeed,
you
homie.
Free. I'm free at last. Free at last. Thank God. I'm free at last. That's
Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
And Braveheart.
Was that? No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
I think that was Martin Luther King Jr., wasn't it? I think that's what it was.
Yeah, it was not Mel Gibson. He just yelled freedom really loud.
Yeah. Freedom!
I just saw his intestines laid on the show. But either way, whoever you are, 3637294.
Thank you for the review.
And hit a brother up at the email. We'll get some stuff out to you.
Yes. All right. So
with this conversation, I'll do a little setup for you. Okay,
right,
so
set it up,
growing up, there's that old conversation around the idea. There's only
religion?
No. There's only 2 things that are sure in life: death and taxes. And fun fact, you know who said that quote?
Benjamin Franklin.
Well, people think he jacked it off somebody else.
Oh,
but so he was the one who wrote it down because he was actually talking about the Constitution. Or I think he was talking about the Constitution, the fact that the Constitution, as much as we've done, we know it's a great document, but we know there's going to have to be changes because the only thing that's really sure in life is death and taxes. Like was the reference point. And so there's always that idea in the back of my mind of like, okay, so we going to die and we going to pay taxes. But when you think about life that way, that doesn't sound really fun. Like, all right, so your whole existence is to live to give money to the government, and then at some point you bounce from life. That sounds wonderful. Why would anybody?
That's a very pessimistic view of life, isn't it?
I'm an optimist. I have learned as I gotten older, I'm an optimistic pessimist, which is not always a great place to be. I'm honest with you. The glass is half empty, but hopefully it'll fill back up.
So you're saying you're an oxymoron, is what you're saying?
Yep.
Like that's what an oxymoron, right? You're like hoping for the best and hoping for or knowing that there's going to be the worst at the same time. Yep. Kind of thing. Like, yeah. Okay.
There's a song Cautiously Optimistic, and like that song went fire on TikTok and Instagram, and that's kind of my vibe. I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic pessimist. That's when I'm not in a good spot in life, right? So and the older I get, the more I'm like, is this really all there is to life? Because when you're in your teen or when you're a kid, you're looking forward to basketball and sports and friends, and girls, you're just looking and work and college.
You're looking for hanging out with your friends,
right? Like there's so much to live for. You see everything out there, and you're like, oh, this is awesome. And then when you get to college, you're like, yo, I'm studying for my career. I got it. Then you leave college. At least for me, I left college. I'm like, yo, I'm finally in the career that I want to be, and I'm working towards a master's degree.
Here come the bills.
And I got that, and then then I'm looking for ordination as a pastor, and I got that. Then all of a sudden, here I am at 31, going. So is there more like? I don't know. I'm not having a midlife crisis. I'm 30. I'm starting to understand that there's kids that are coming up. I have a daughter entering junior high school now. I'm staring down the barrel of that. I have a whole bunch of kids. I'm starting to understand what it's like to be a parent. And then I see my mom and my in-laws going, you were here when I was there, so I'm about to be there. And that's wild to me. And so, I've been asking the question a lot of times about like, okay, so what is really the purpose of life? And I've been asking that question. And, as a Christian, I understand and I can give you the Christian answer of what the purpose of life is, right? It's to honor God with your life. And one day, Jesus will come back, make all things new. But to be honest with you, lately, we talked about this at the beginning, before we recorded, I've been struggling with, not me, but like we get struggles in just the monotony of the day-to-day. you wake up, you take care of the kids, you go to work. Well, at least for me, I take care of, the kids. I go to work, I grind at work, and then I eat dinner, and then we're, just chilling, and then I got to feed Lennox, and then all of a sudden it's midnight because his feedings take so butt long, and then I fall asleep and I do it again, and just over and over and over, and I'm dealing with, clients, I'm dealing with frustrations, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with kids. It's to the point where I know what's the right thing to do as a dad and as a husband, as a father, but I'm so exhausted. And sometimes we start to ask these questions of like, is this it? Now, Beth has to remind me a lot of times of, at least for me, that I'm living someone's dream life. And I'm living a life that we have strived for and attempted to have, and we're finally there. But so many times, when we get stuck in the middle of the day-to-day in the monotony of all the different things, it's so easy to just feel like the grind has no purpose and it's meaningless. And it's just like, is this really all there is to life? And I feel like this is where a lot of people get into trouble with life, and they're bored, where, they're bored with their spouse, they're bored with their jobs, they're bored with their kids. And so they try, and their grass isn't as green as it used to be. And we put all this work in, and it's like, man, I've done all this work, and I look back and I'm like, man, that's a lot of grind for a whole lot of nothing, but that looks like a lot of fun over there. And I feel like a lot of people, when they get stuck in this reality of life, a few things kind of happen. One is they either potentially blow up their life because they think there's something better out there. Two, they just keep the grind and become really, 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 really grumpy all the time. Or three, they have that existential crisis of, okay, if I'm going to do it, it's all or nothing. Let's get after it. Let's do something about this. Or they just get hobbies like World War II or smoking meat. Like, those are the other two hobbies when you become a 30-year-old man. Do you know what I'm talking about? That's TikTok.
Wait, what?
So TikTok is when you reach 30, you only have two choices: become obsessed with World War II history, or smoking some meat. Like, it's the joke when you get to this age, because
I
all
guess
of
I'm
a sudden
smoking meat.
you have enough history to think about it.
Sure.
You can reminisce on the past and stick in the past and think, oh, it's so hard right now. But then as the days go on, the years go on, nothing ever changes. And so it just gets exhausting. And so it kind of makes you ask the question of, okay, so really, what am I living for? What am I trying to obtain for? Are you trying to now obtain for career goals? But when you do that, you got to put your family on hold. Do you attain for family goals? Do you attain for hobbies, all these different things? And It kind of, and I hopefully people are kind of tracking with me on this idea, the fact of sometimes when we're living in the day in, day out monotony, we mentally know what the meaning of life is in God. We understand the Christian world, but it's hard to go from knowing it to feeling it and believing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And to that, I would say that there's probably a big group of people out there that feel that way. And then on the flip side, there's another group out there that doesn't feel that way at all. They're very optimistic about, like Beth, you said, so you're living somebody else's dream. That's a very optimistic point of view. It really is. And and we need both sides of that. We need the side for the people that are in the monotony to have those people that are like, hey, sunshines and rainbows. Like, you're living somebody's dream, to remind us of that, because it is true. There's way worse situations out there than what we have. And sometimes we forget about that. But then again, that shouldn't dismiss the way we are feeling, right? So there is that side of things too. But anyway, go on.
And I'm okay going completely off script, because I don't have a huge script. And this was designed to be more of a conversation between two buddies. And so, but there's also that level of, as Christians, like, if people listen to the show, they've been listening to a long time, or if you're new to the show, I don't want to just assume you know everything there is about Christianity if you're seeking to understand what's going on.
Sure.
But as Christians, we have been taught that we are supposed to honor God in everything that we do. 1 Corinthians 10:31, whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do it all to the glory of God. Right. That's what we're supposed to do. But then there's the question of the struggle of, okay, so, but what if I'm struggling with the question of, well, is God really real? How does this work in the day out and day in and day out? If we're supposed to enjoy God and know him forever, what's the purpose of the weird blip it here where, there's always 2 dates on everyone's tombstone? And so what are you doing living in the line? Like, so if we're supposed to know God and enjoy him forever, but he's not even here, what's the purpose of this life? And so there's a lot of people who, I would say, more going into the Revelations talk of, pre-trib, pre-mill. Well, this world's going to hell in a handbasket. I'm just waiting for it to explode. Like, there's that type of mentality of, you know what, we're just going to shield ourselves and protect ourselves from all of that over there, and that doesn't matter. then there's the other side of the equation. People are like, you know what? We're here to do something about it. So let's go, look and not just in a gospel way, but literally let's just go dig wells. Let's build benches. Let's clean up the city because we want to make this world a nice, friendly place, whether for Christians or not. They can do whatever they want to do, but we're going to make this a nice place for everyone to live and enjoy their life while they're here, and almost step into the whole, the stomach is for the food and food for the stomach, eat, drink, be merry, whatever, or, for tomorrow, it doesn't really matter. Or, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And the idea is the fact of we're living here, we're right here right now for this physical life, and this is all there is. So therefore, let's try to make it the best we can for everybody and not even think of the eternal of what's going on and finding that balance in the middle. And so to kind of start the conversation, I actually was trying to figure out less about what Christians had to say about the purpose of life and more about what secular sources said about the purpose of life. And I read article after article after article about here's what all the purpose of life is, or here's 7 ways to find purpose for your life. Because, when we're talking about is there more to life than just death and taxes, we're talking about not necessarily finding God's will for your life, but finding purpose in the life that God gave you. And, a lot of people are talking about career success or, sports or money or luxury. One of the coaches that I listened to for my own business, she was talking about the fact of you don't need to be ashamed to live a rich, comfortable, frivolous life because you earned it, you deserve it. And like there's a big mentality around that in the world of literally we have what we have right here. When we die, we don't know what's going to happen, so just live for right here, right now, but also take care of charities and take other people around you. There's nothing wrong with that. But if this is all going to not, if it's all just going to waste, there is the question of, from a pessimist side of, why are we doing all this? There's also the evolutionary side where it's survival of the fittest. So if you really want to live into that worldview, all the homeless people, why don't you just axe them off? Because honestly, they're not the fittest. So sorry, that sucks. And well, I'm just so you know, I'm not saying that's okay.
Well, and again,
I'm not saying that's okay.
If you have that viewpoint of there's nothing after this, right, and live for the here and now, it goes into the question of morality at that point for me, right? And
what do you mean by that, morality?
So the morality question is what makes right and wrong. If this is just living for now and there's nothing after this, what dictates right and wrong? Morality. And who says what you think is right and wrong is what has to apply to what I think is right and wrong, or applies to Stalin or Hitler or that rapist that's in jail on death row or that murderer, that serial killer, so who sets the standards? If there's no standards, right? If there's nothing out there, if there's nothing past this life, if it truly is hopeless, it's live, eat, and be merry and die, and that's it, then at that point, it throws everything about life up in the air. And it's every man for himself and survival of the fittest.
And I don't know if people are trying to find a purpose in the life, leaning into that, each person has a different definition of what the purpose of life is. So who's to say that your opinion's right and mine's wrong?
Right. Well, and that's where, as a Christian,
if I want to be if my purpose in life is to be a world leader and a dictator, who are you to tell me no?
And if my purpose in life is to be a warlock, dressed in a cape and going, no, I'm sorry.
I mean, Comic-Con's this week. So.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. If that's there was a guy, side story.
It's not me chasing a squirrel, guys.
Sorry, it's me. There was a person in this town I grew up in. They'll remain nameless. But there was a guy who literally walked around with a stick trying to cast spells all the time. And it was just like, wow, okay.
Were shrooms involved?
I don't know. He seemed pretty stable.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if...
Or he's one of those guys who just lives for the reaction and be like, let's see what
maybe
you
that's
guys
what it was.
do.
But to me, it was like, oh,
okay.
Alrighty then. I mean, hey.
All right, Gandalf. How you doing, bro? How you doing, boo-boo? Can you make some fireworks come from that stick?
When I said that, that's
what you were thinking?
Yeah, sorry.
So, after reading all these articles, I pulled one from the Reader's Digest, which my mom always have Reader Digest in the bathroom growing up as kids. We had Our Daily Bread and Reader Digest in the bathroom. That's what we had growing up. I don't know what you had.
Star
shampoo bottles.
Stark difference between the two, but okay.
That's what Mama had, and sometimes what's the Home Goods magazine or whatever?
We always had National Geographic in our bathroom growing up.
Yeah, no, I didn't have that.
They're like, hey, if you're going to sit here on the potty, you're going to learn something.
Or shampoo bottles. That's the other thing too,
right?
So in a quote from Reader's Digest of what is the purpose of life, the question chart is, what is the purpose of life? There are many answers to this age-old question, as there are people, and they run the gamut from hopeful to nihilistic to, well, non-existent. Here are a few famous examples. You ready?
Let's hear them.
So Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's Schwarzenegger. I'll punch a pepperoni through your head. Sorry, that's another joke. Go on.
I don't get that one.
It's all right.
So Arnold Schwarzenegger said it's all about action and winning. He says the meaning of life is not simply to exist, to survive, but to move ahead. I can picture the Terminator saying it, move ahead.
Can you do it in the voice?
Absolutely not.
Let's hear it.
No.
Just look.
I can't do it.
Just try it. Let's hear, because I want to hear your Arnold impersonation.
Can you dunk a basketball?
Sure.
What?
Sure.
I can't do it. No, I can't even do it. But to move ahead. I can't even do it. Make fun of me. I can't do it.
You got to get like this and be like, the meaning of life is not simply to exist, to survive, but to move ahead, to go, to achieve, to conquer. That was a little off.
That was impressive, though. That's about as Terminator as it gets. The 16th century French writer and philosopher Francois Rabelais was less certain, saying that the purpose of life is to seek the great, perhaps. Just to seek the great, perhaps. American author and mythologist Joseph Campbell managed to define it both very broadly, yet very personally. Life has no meaning, he says. Each of us has meaning, and we bring it to life. It's a waste to be asking the question when you are the answer. That's about as philosophy as it gets. There is no meaning to life. You are the answer to your own question, and so you are the meaning to your life, so go live it. Which, then the question is, okay, so whose meaning of life is right or wrong, and how do you balance this in a society?
And how can you say that somebody like Hitler's meaning of life was wrong at that point?
Yep. And then there's my favorite quote. I use this one all the time, from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Author Douglas Adam Families calculated the answer of the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42. Then he added, that's the answer. Unfortunately, no one knows what the question is. That was brilliantly written. I'm not going to lie.
What's Jackie Robertson's number?
42.
There's your answer to life.
There you go.
Boom.
And then, but it continues on. It says, but the point isn't what other people, and it says even famous people think the answer is. It's how you answer that question for yourself, says Ryan McAlley Lentz, PhD, co-author of Life Worth Living, a guide that matters most, and the associate director of the Yale Center for Faith and Culture. The point isn't what other people think the answer is to the purpose of life. It's how you answer that question for yourself. And then the article, that part ends with, we don't just ask about the purpose in life as a matter of curiosity, like we might ask about how many stars there are in the galaxy. We ask because the question matters to us individually, he says. Each of us lives one life, our own. What we're looking for isn't just generic purpose, but the purpose of that one and only life. Did our YouTube feed go down?
Well, it says we're still going.
It says your internet went poop.
We're offline.
The internet crashed in your house. Your house internet crashed.
That's a first.
That's a first. So we're just going to keep rolling with what we got.
Yeah,
Sounds
sure.
good?
Okay. It'll come back eventually.
Hopefully. Maybe this is the purpose of OBS.
Forgot to pay the bill.
But so after reading all of this, of what the Reader's Digest says is the purpose of life, it really stops and make you ask the question of, so really, what the heck is the purpose to living? If the purpose of living is you yourself and you need to manifest your own realities into life, then figure it out. It's not to do this. It's to conquer. It's the old Vince Lombardi. There's no second place. There's first losers or something like that. And the whole purpose of life is to win.
There's no second place. There's only first losers.
Right. And so you got to get after it. You got to win. And then there's other people that's like, well, it's not really about living. It's just that you lived your best you. And so when you see all these different things, it makes people kind of stop and ask the question of, so really, what on earth is the purpose of life? So in today's conversation, what I'm hoping that we can, you're going to kick back on for me. What I'm hoping we can digest a little bit is, as Christians, how are we supposed to understand life in general? Okay, so not just what the purpose is, but if we understand what life is, then we can then go, okay, so now that we know what life is in general, now we can find purpose in how it was created to be. Another one is, if we're supposed to honor God with our lives, where do we find meaning in the day in, day out monotony of life? And then last but not least, how do we handle the meaning of life? With finding purpose in life? So we can find what the meaning of life is, but then purpose of it then is, how do you connect the two together? Okay, so where we want to start is always with the Bible. Okay, so I can't kill their audio. Hey, we're back. Hi. Sorry, guys. We'll figure this out. So what does the Bible say about life? Okay, so as we got to understand how we're supposed to understand life in general. First, we got to know, guys, that all life comes from God. Read Genesis. I'm not reading it all. Read Genesis. But in Colossians 1:15-17, it says, He, which is Jesus, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For everything was created by him in heaven and on earth, the visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and by him all things are held together. So all things that were created come through Jesus, which is God the Son. But so God created everything, but then not just created it, but life is still, according to this, is still found in him and through him. We also know, this is kind of the pessimist side, is life is fleeting, and so are the things of the world. We read in James 4:13-17, Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we'll travel to such and such a city and spend a year there, do business and make profit. Yet you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, what your life will be, for you are like a vapor that appears for a little while and then poof, vanishes. Poof is in the Bible, by the way.
He said poof.
Poof, not really, not poop.
Rawr.
Poof. Rawr. Verse 15, instead you should say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. But as it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So it is the sin to know the good and yet not do it. And so that verse is talking about, you know the good. Oh, tomorrow we'll do the good thing. We'll do the right thing tomorrow. We won't do it today. That's kind of what that's talking about. But at the end of the day, our life is like a vapor. It's here and then it just goes away. I mean, I think of my dad, right? He was just going home or going back to work from school. And then just like that, his life was taken in a car accident. And I'm not trying to make this, cast some shade or do some dead dad jokes. That's not the purpose. But in reality, we don't know when life is going to stop.
Right.
And even people who live to be 90, 100 years old, they said, man, that went by quick.
Yep.
And so we know life is fleeting. And then when you look at Ecclesiastes, right, Song of Solomon, you basically had the wisest, which makes you wonder why he's so wise, but he had so many wives. But so he was the wisest, smartest, richest, most powerful king in the history of Israel. At the end of his life, he basically said, I did this and this and did this and this. And in fact, when you read before what's coming up, he basically says, I tried the career thing. I tried the sex thing. I tried the power thing. I tried the CEO builder thing. Basically said, I have tried everything. And then this is the final chapter in the book of Ecclesiastes. It says, so, writing to someone else, remember your creator in the days of your youth. When you're young, remember your creator. Before the days of adversity come and the years approach, when you will say, I have no delight in them. Before the sun and the light are darkened and the moon and the stars and the clouds return after the rain, on the day when the guardians of the house tremble and the strong man stoop and the woman who grind grain cease because there are few and the one who watches through the window sees dimly, the doors at the street are shut while the sound of the mill fades, when one rises at the sound of a bird and all the daughters of song grow faint. Also, they are afraid of the heights and dangers of the road. The almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper loses its spring, and the catberberry has no effect, for the mere mortal is headed to his eternal home. And the mourners will walk around in the street before the silver cord is snapped, and the gold bowl is broken, and the jar is shattered at the spring, and the wheel is broken at the well, and the dust returns to the earth as it once was, and the spirit returns to God who first gave it. Absolute futility, says the teacher. Everything is futile. Or in the King Jimmy, vanity. Everything is vanity. In addition to the teacher being a wise man, he constantly taught the people of knowledge. He weighed, explored, and arranged many proverbs. The teacher, which is why we believe this is Solomon, the teacher sought to find delightful sayings and write words of truth accurately. The sayings of the wise are like cattle prods, and those from masters of collections are like the firmly embedded nails. They are sayings, or the sayings are given by one shepherd. But beyond these, my son, be warned. There is no end to the making of many books. And much study wearies the body. When all has been heard, the conclusion of the matter is this. Basically, he's saying, when you take all the sources in life, all the reading, all the wise men, all the counsel, all the books, all the podcasts, all the documentaries, after you absorb everything in life, the conclusion of the matter is this. Fear God and keep his commands, because this is for all humanity, or God will bring every act to judgment, including every hidden thing, whether good or evil. And this is the challenge that Solomon basically gave his son, the wise man. He says, so remember your creator in the days of your youth. While you are young, remember your creator. After you do everything, you try to gain and ascertain and grasp at everything. At the end, it's all not, because it's all going to disappear. And that's what he was saying. All these things are going to go away,
right,
but only one thing's for certain. Not even death or taxes,
but God.
But God.
Yep.
And then, so if we continue on, though, what does the Bible say about life? All life comes from God. We also see that life is fleeting, and so are things of the world. We also see that God, in this passage, is the end-all, be-all. But we also see what we're supposed to do while we're living, and that is we are actually called to do good works. Ephesians 2, 8 through 10, we know this verse well. For by grace you're saved through faith. It's not your own doing, it's God's gift, not the result of work, so that way no one may boast. For we are what he made us to be, right? Created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God has prepared beforehand to be our way of life. James 1, 22 through 27 says, but be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. Because if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he's like a man who looks at his own face in the mirror. He looks at himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of person he was, probably because he has ADHD. But the one who looks intently into the perfect law of freedom and perseveres in it is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer who works. This person will be blessed in what he does. If anyone thinks he is religious without holding his tongue or controlling his tongue, his religion is useless, and he deceives himself. Here's pure and undefiled religion before God the Father. Look after orphans and widows, the motherless and the fatherless in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. In other words, you can be in it, but don't absorb those stains. Make sure you wash it with Tide, baby. Philippians 2, 1 through 18. It's a massive passage. We're not going to read into it. But basically, it's the idea of the fact of the Apostle Paul is telling those at Philippi, have the exact same mindset as Jesus. And what did Jesus do? He humbled himself found himself in the form of man and became a servant. And he served even to the point of death. And when we read that passage, the whole idea is the fact of we're called to, in the same way Jesus did, serve one another.
Right.
We also see in James 1 through 27, we're supposed to give, not just out of our abundance, but just give and take care of people. We're supposed to control our tongue, look after widows and orphans in our distress. Don't just hear what the Bible has to say. Don't just hear what God tells you, but actually,
do it.
Put on your big boy pants and go do it.
Be the hands and feet.
But ultimately, Ephesians 2, 8 and 9, it says, for we are what he made us, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared ahead of time for us. And then, but here's the other thing too, and I don't want to go into this too much because I don't want to take too much time, but there's also a ton of different verses about the fact that we're not supposed to just live for ourselves, but we're called as a meaning and purpose, to find purpose in our life, that we're called to go and serve others. Matthew 20, 26 through 28 says, but whoever is great among you, be a servant. John 13, 12 through 14 talks about when Jesus washed the disciples' feet, that he did the lowliest job in the social economic culture of that time. John 15, 12 says, this is my commandment, love one another as I loved you. I have tons of other passages, but they all point to one simple thing of, because you follow Jesus, what God did for you, therefore you are to serve others. And so as we're trying to find purpose in life, I think it's really easy, to kind of take a step back from all of this, go back to the bird's eye, the drone view. Ooh, 21st century, go back to the drone view when it just goes in the air, that little annoying pitch.
How high?
Maybe just, we'll just say 300 feet.
Okay,
so,
there you go.
So when we take a bird's eye drone view of this whole conversation of, okay, so God created life. We're not always here for forever. Life's a vapor. It's going to disappear. If we chase after everything, it's going to end up falling short of all of our hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And then in the meantime, we're called to serve one another. I guess here's the question of, when we understand that mentally, how do we remind ourselves in the midst of the monotonous life to find purpose in that? Especially I'm thinking the stay-at-home mom who literally has baby talk all day long and always has spit up all over them. The person who does the same out job at like a factory, you know, where it's like they're just putting parts together. It's the same exact thing day in and day out. Someone like you who's, you know, just trying to operate and make sure the furnace stays on and make sure that the steel's going. I make websites, for crying out loud. Really, what purpose in life is that except just people want to make money off of it, I guess. But, you know, when we get stuck in the monotony and we don't maybe feel like, you know, man, it's my lifetime on purpose. Like, you know, pastors, like they're pouring into people. They're doing this kind of stuff. You know, you got school teachers who are trying to raise the next generation. These are what we call the noble professions in I would say in normal talk. But in the day-to-day life, how do we connect the way we feel and the way we think versus what we read in Scripture?
So I'm gonna answer that with a scripture.
Ooh, okay.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3.
Oh, okay.
There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What do workers gain from their toil?
Okay.
I have seen the burden God has laid on the human race. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from the beginning to the end. I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. This is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. God does it so that the people will fear him. Whatever is has already been, and what will be has been before, and God will call the past to account. And I saw something else under the sun in the place of judgment and wickedness, and it goes on. But what I basically want to say with all this is that there's a time for everything. So that mom that's at home, that website designer, that furnace mechanic, yeah, you're in a time, you're in a season right now, but take heart, because when a time starts, a time's eventually going to end.
So,
right?
So question, and it's not to me take over the conversation.
Sure.
It's more to ask a follow up to what you're saying. You know, in today's culture, there's a lot of, you know, go treat yourself, go live your best life. Is it bad then to want to go travel the world to experience new things, different cultures, different foods, different vibes, different atmospheres? Like, are those vanity things or are those good pursuits to have? Because, you know, growing up, I always heard not just student life, death, and taxes, more the fact that there's only two things that last forever: the souls of God the souls of God, the Word of God, and the souls of men. So that's if your focus isn't focused on just bringing people to heaven, you're wasting your life.
Well,
so how do we handle that?
So everything that we do, we should do for what? The glory of God.
Okay.
In anything that we do, right? We should do it for the glory of God. So I would say, is it for the glory of God? That would be my follow-up question to your follow-up question.
Yeah, but
and
I think
what you do.
But God wires people differently too.
Well, I can't answer that for anybody. I can answer it for my own life, but I can't answer that for you. I can't answer that for Beth. I can't answer that for Joe Schmo in Africa. I can't do that, right? Because that's between you and the Lord. That's something that you've got to answer for yourself. Of, hey, is it okay that I do this? Well, it's your walk. You got to answer that.
And I think God creates everybody a little bit different. Like there are some people who have the wanderlust just heart where they want to go see all of God's creation.
Sure.
And they want to go experience and see. And again, we see that creation even points to the glory of God. And so there's nothing wrong with enjoying God. Because a lot of people, you know, there's...
but we go back to...
I knew what book we're talking about. There's a book that was about different ways to try to connect with God, and nature is the way some people find it. In the same way that some people do it in reading church history or reading theology or just chat with people in coffee shops.
Yeah, sure. So my only thing is are we... and I'm trying to find it. You had it here, and we read it, and I'm trying to remember the one about the widows and orphans. Is that James?
James 1.
So in those things, right? If we're constantly looking after ourselves, how are we looking after the widows and the orphans and the needy? And are we just being hearers only, deceiving ourselves? and not being doers of the word. Is
So-
my next question.
right,
Right.
and
So,
so-
I think there's a fine balance, is what I'm saying.
So is there?
I don't think it's necessarily wrong to do it, but I think there needs to be a balance. It shouldn't be your only focus
Mm-hmm.
because we are called to do greater works than these, right?
and what are those greater works?
Well, the greater works is the one is the commission that every Christian has been given, Matthew 28. I mean, the Great Commission is the commission to all Christians. Why? Because it was given to the disciples, and who were the disciples supposed to teach? They were supposed to go and what?
Make more disciples.
Okay, and so if they're disciples, they learn from the disciples who learned from Jesus, and wouldn't that same calling apply to them at that point, right?
Yep.
And discipleship doesn't mean going out baptizing and spreading the word of God, the gospel, doesn't mean you have to be a televangelist or a street preacher or an ordained pastor or a missionary. You can be a missionary to your neighbors in your backyard. That's all you got to be. It's live in the life that God has you in, and be the doer of the word in the life that you have, and take hope and be edified in the life that you have, because God has you in this time and a season for a reason, for his glory.
Mm-hmm.
It's ultimately for his glory and his purposes why you're in a season of life. So to me, sometimes it's monotonous, right? And I think about you, the grind that you and Beth are doing right now. Oh, tedious grind of dude, working all day and then having to help take care of the kids and help Beth out, and then the long feedings with Lennox and
I don't just help Beth, because it's not
Yeah.
just Beth, but we take care of the kids.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know.
But what I'm saying is that you're working, right? You got to work to provide for your family. So there is a big chunk where it is Beth taking care of the kids, right? And then when you're done with the work, you go and do the work.
Right, and I think that's where some of that exhaustion comes from, is the fact. Now, and this is when Beth says, like, you know, at some point, I have to realize that I'm living someone else's dream, and that is,
Man, that's a good saying.
and I've been thinking about that. Or there's the question of, why are you complaining now what you're praying for in the past? You know,
Ooh, that's even better.
you know,
I like
and
both
so
those.
it's a fact of, not everyone gets to say this, and I'm not trying to brag about it, but it's the fact of, I work from home. I'm technically my own boss.
Right.
I technically can say no to whatever I want to say no to, and yes to whatever I want to say to for work. And I also get the added benefit of the reality of the, you know, and I don't want to go too much into it, but just, we have alternative revenue streams too.
Sure.
So I don't have to have to grind so hard that I have to bring in all this money to take care of everybody.
But not only that, right? You have 8 beautiful children, right? You have a wife whom you love. Not everybody gets that either. So those are extra things that you might be living that part of somebody's dream. Maybe somebody can't have children and can't adopt, or isn't been able to foster to it, whatever. I mean, I don't know the circumstances, and I'm not trying to speak in the circumstance, but maybe there's some reason that keeps them from being able to have children. And God's blessed you with 8, and I know it's hard. My 3 are hard. I can't even imagine adding another 5 to it. Like the 3 that I have it's hard. It is rough. And so, but God calls children a blessing. I'm still looking for the blessing, but God calls them a blessing. No, I love my kids.
My mama said I didn't become a blessing until I was 20. So good luck with that one.
My kids are blessing. It's just hard. And I know it's the time.
We love you, Piper, Noel, and Shai.
It's the time that God has us in right now, right?
Yep.
And it's not going to be this way forever, because eventually, our kids are going to grow up. Eventually, our kids are going to have somewhat lives of their own, right? Somewhat. I mean, your circumstances are a little bit different than mine, you know, and I'm not going to go too much into that.
But we are teaching our kids, and to be honest, this is a balance that Beth brings, a beautiful balance into my life. Because if you say, all right, Mark, we're trying to do, I'm trying to raise kids that are just fruitful members of society. Like they're able to engage and plug in and do really good work and help people and love people. And she goes, and love Jesus. And I'm like, yeah, boo-boo. Yeah, girl, you're right. You're right. Forgot that one.
Yeah.
You know, and so when I'm thinking through those thoughts, I get so focused on what I have to do, not who I'm doing it for. And I know, and again, mentally, I know the fact of, at church, we do something called the benediction. And so Beth, Amy, and you guys know what I'm talking about, at the end of every service, we read a scripture together, and it changes like every quarter.
We do the same thing.
You guys have a benediction verse that end the service now? Yeah, good job, associate. Or is that Scott or whoever did it?
Chris Gripe, actually.
Woo! Go, Papa Cripe. But so right now our verse is, therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, which, you know, when you see therefore, you got to ask, what is it there for? It's saying that we have a victory in Christ Jesus. So therefore, brothers and sisters, be steadfast, immovable, always excelling in the Lord's work, because you know that your labor is not in vain if it's in the Lord.
Yep.
And so when we hear that benediction, we say it every single Sunday. I love it because that's an anchor point for me of the fact of I'm not in vain. And I have to remember, and sometimes you forget the blessings you have when it's annoying and it's hard. But I was chatting with someone. We talked about this a little bit. Beth and I had a date night. We went to the grotto. I didn't tell you anything more about the fact that our date night just got interrupted. But it was this wonderful older lady, and she, literally, I was almost neighbors with her. Like I grew up a road down from her my teenage life, which is wild to think about. And she went to Trinity, and so we caught up with her at the grotto, and we were just sharing our story a little bit. And I said the words, since I was able to do this, I've been able to share my faith, and not just even my faith, but my story. Because it's one thing to talk with someone that you're kind of making connection with. It's like, oh yeah, you should follow Jesus, you should follow Jesus. But it's more the fact of, no, we did this because of our love for Jesus. And, we have Beth and we have these kids, and we did Beth did foster care and she adopted them. But man, I could never do that. And we're like, yeah, Beth couldn't either, but that's why Jesus stepped in and took care of it.
Yeah, stepped out in faith and Christ
so
took care
our
of
story, I've been able to connect with Christians all around America with it, of people who are my clients now. I've been able to reach so many people who are part of the Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, those who are farthest you can possibly believe from Christianity. And so I've been able to share my story and hopefully be a testimony of this is what it's all about. Yes, I have a job, but at the end of the day, my job is to take care of you, and I want to take care of you the best that I can.
Right.
And so there is a lot of joy that can be found in that. It's just not very joyful when it's hard grinding work.
So
it's work.
So think about it, right? So we see so many parts of the Bible where people were lamenting or depressed or crying out for God. So the Bible's not full of stories of happiness and joyfulness. Again, there's a time and a season, right? There's a season where you can feel,
pretty rough.
I'm having a real hard time even doing my daily devotions. Man, I'm really having a hard time staying in prayer. Now, again, I would still encourage you, right? That's your communication. That's how you build the relationship with Christ. So if you feel far from God, or if you don't feel connection with God, well, how's your prayer life? How's your Bible reading? Because your prayer life is you're speaking to Him, and your Bible reading is Him speaking to you, and that's how the relationship grows. Is that
cycle?
So if you're not doing those two things, then your relationship's not going to grow, and you're probably going to feel more and more helpless the longer you go without it. And it is hard, especially when you're in the grind of saying, man, I got to carve out time. But then that's when we need to take stock and reprioritize. How can we help our family if we can't lead our family? What is most important to us? Is it the daily grind? Is it that dollar amount? Is it that watch? Is it that driving a Tesla? Is it having that jet airplane? Is it being an amazing podcaster? Is it being an influencer? Is it being, a Revive Fest guest? Is it being this? Is it being, no, it's not.
It's on the stage in the spotlight.
It's not about that, right? It's about your relationship with God. But as a man who has a family, it's about how we minister and treat our wife first. That's our first ministry. And our kids are second ministry. And then everything else, right? And we got to reprioritize God first, wife second, kids third, church fourth, and then everything else. I think that we need to always continue to come back to the refocus of, all right, if God's going to truly be priority, then I have to carve out time in my day.
So let me ask you this then, because I don't want it to just be about me. So with you in your various career paths, right? Like you were, before you were working at the steel mill, you were at the I
was at a place in Goshen.
The stair place.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So for those jobs, do you ever get stuck in that monotony? Specifically because you're a mechanic. Now granted, you have a stupid important job at that steel mill.
Sure.
Like if you fall asleep on the job, a lot of crap can go down.
Sure.
Right? And yes, because of the steel you guys were able to make, we're able to do so much cool things in the world because of it. That's awesome. Yeah. But do you ever get stuck in going, what the heck am I doing here?
Oh, all the time.
Is there a purpose to this? Seriously, I'm here keeping I'm here keeping the fire on.
I'll throw a little honesty out there. I'm struggling right now with that, of the monotony of the job, and I'm not feeling fulfillment. I've never had a job where I've felt fulfillment to where it's like, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm called to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I've never had that in my life. It's always been, I do it because I have to. I'm at this job because it provides for my family. That's what I'm doing the job for, right? It's my job to take care of my family financially, but then I also make sure I take care of my family spiritually. I get them to church. We do family devotions. We do prayer time every single day. Like, these are the things. And is my heart in it 100% of the time? No, and I don't think it would be. But I know I'd be doing a disservice to my kids if I didn't show them the discipline of doing it and doing it and doing it, and the repetitiveness, because though my heart may not always be in it, it helps them see that it's an important thing to have in their lives that they should hopefully continue to do as they grow older, that they'll do their daily devotions, that they'll do their prayer time daily in the morning and at night before bed and before each meal. And it's building those habits, right? And that's what, for me, right? And this, I'm not putting this on anybody else. This is just a structure that Janelle and I have decided was important for our family, is having that structure of daily devotions. And we do it at night before bed. It's like, hey, we're going to do devotions. We're going to read a book for story time or look at old family pictures and videos. And then we're going to say prayers,
family time.
And we're going to go night-night, right? That's what we do every single night, except for on small group night, because small group, usually people don't leave till like 10:30 or 11
At that point,
o'clock
you're good to bed. Melatonin.
Well, yeah. No, it's not even melatonin. They're falling asleep anyway. So, but it's cool because they're able to see us interact with other Christians. We're talking about God. They're around. They're seeing that, right? They're seeing us living life together in our tribe.
And that's finding purpose outside of it. So where do you find your purpose inside of that monotony then?
For me or for my family?
For you personally.
For me,
like how do you keep your eye focused on the end game, on the ball?
So for me, it's that constant reminder, but not just me. Like you, my wife reminds me of, man, hey, I'll say something. She'll be like, hey, it's not like that.
Our lives are wonderful people because they keep us on the straight and very narrow.
My wife is wonderful, but honestly, what keeps my mind and I focused on God is all that He has brought me out of, and where He has brought me to. And I destroyed my own life, and God brought me from destruction of life into a wonderful life. So I can see the blessings. Now, Janelle helps remind me of the blessings sometimes, because sometimes you just kind of lose sight.
But that's even what friends and family are for.
But I think that's the importance of, we talked about episode 1, does our past affect our future? It does, to a point of, it helps us remember what God has saved us out of, which is exactly what we are talking to in episode 1 of, we are saved from something. That's the beauty of it. And that's why should remember it, not to be boastful in it, but remember it to see the glory of God through it, and to encourage us to continue to press on and move forward as a runner on a race, as Paul would describe. We're running the race, right? And sometimes we get fatigued. And it's okay. It's okay to be fatigued. It's okay to be down. But you got to still run the race. You still got to figure out a way to jumpstart it again. Jumpstart it again. You have to find that second, third, fourth, fifth win. For me, a lot of the times, be honest with you, it's the podcast. Usually there'll be a topic in the podcast that'll get me excited and stoked again.
Sir.
Or I'll read a book and I'll get like stirred up again to start studying more.
Honestly, mine's church history thing of reading a book. When I read when I read about what the saints did, I'm like, holy crap, Marc, let's get moving. That
podcast, The Men Who Rocked the World, that really got me a fire in me for a while. And it was like, this is awesome. And I just started going crazy. I mean, look at all the books that I have. Most of these books weren't here 5 years ago.
Nope.
And it's like read. And then it's like, okay. And then lull. And then it's, it goes back.
I don't even read that much. Shoot.
I like to read, so
I don't even listen that much anymore.
But it's all about seeking God, being honest with God. There were so many times that David cried out to God in his circumstances. There was times when Paul cried out to God he cried out to God 3 times, remove this thorn from my side.
Nope.
And God said no. And then, so what did he say? All right, to God be the glory. Like, all right, I'll just accept it now. You haven't removed it. You told me no, I'm just going to accept it and just move on and be grateful for it. And because he knew that God was going to get the glory in it. And so sometimes that's what we have to see of, man, my life might just suck. And all right, to God be the glory. He'll get the glory in it somehow. And God tends to try to, all things work to the good and the glory of God. So
question then, coming out of that,
Sure.
So out of that thought, is it okay to be at a job that, let's be honest, doesn't seem like it has a higher calling? That doesn't seem like it has a higher purpose? People might be thinking, I'm just doing this. Like, what's the purpose of me doing? Like, is it okay to just be in a quote unquote monotonous job? It's just an active member of society. Sure. Like, is that a bad thing, or do we need to try to find this higher mystical purpose and meaning to find the fulfillment in what we do?
I would say I'll give you Fuller's opinion.
I have an opinion on it too.
I would say, and they probably differ because that's just how we roll sometimes.
It be what it be.
My opinion is no, it's okay to totally be in a monotonous job.
No, it is okay.
It's okay to be. It's okay to be in a monotonous job because we have responsibilities, and through those jobs, we should count it as blessings because God can use those jobs for us as a mission field. In certain aspects, we can be Christ to certain people without even preaching ever. Our lives we're supposed to be ambassadors. Our lives are supposed to shine the light of Christ. And so we can do that wherever we're at, one. Number two, if you have a family like you and I, you got to provide for your family. So just because you don't feel fulfilled in your job is not necessarily.
Like, you're keeping the lights on, man.
Heck yeah, you're fulfilling the stewardship role, the responsibility of taking care of your family, that provider role that God has. So you are providing the greater purpose, a part of your role. And so I see that a monotonous job, that dream job, not that the dream job, I'm not saying a dream job or being a fulfilling job is a bad thing. I don't think it matters either way. I would say if it's causing you to fail as a steward, as far as your job hopping because you don't feel fulfillment, I would worry about you then. I would say, hey, you got a family or whatever to watch out for. Or if you don't have a family, the more you job hop, the harder, if you do decide to have a family, it's going to be to provide for a family when you don't have stability. You got to get that stability going. That's just my opinion on it, though. That's just a Fuller opinion. I just see being a good steward does not just apply to money. It applies to time. It applies to our work ethic. It applies to a lot of things on how we steward things. And again, if we're only working for the gratification of ourselves, or if we're only working for the gratification of money or success or status, we're doing it for the wrong reason, because God says, do everything that you do as you're doing it, or Paul says, to do it as you're doing it unto God.
Yep, and I was going to say, that's it right there, man.
And so that should always be our mindset. And everything that we do it unto the glory of God. Whether it's
serving the kingdom, baby.
Whether it's plunging a toilet or whether it's,
I've done a lot of that.
Being a televangelist. I don't know. I'm trying to think of two different drastic stances, and neither job is bad. We need both jobs in this society, and both jobs have the fulfillment of paying the bills. There's nothing wrong. People that work at McDonald's, that's fine. That's great. If that's where God has you, great. That's where you need to be. If God has you on disability, that's fine. That's great. That's where God has you to be. Now, if you're just being lazy, all right, you might want to check.
But there's also the other side too of over hustling.
Right, 100%.
Like the hustle and grind culture is also not good.
That's why I said stewardship of time.
Right,
the time aspect.
We're
of it
not
too.
saying don't be lazy and just get out there and do the work. Like work those 20 hours a day.
But I'm not saying don't. I am saying don't find every excuse in the book not to go do the work, because the Bible is clear that a man that doesn't work doesn't eat. Like that is very clear. But again,
what Ecclesiastes, for every time there is a season. Like I remember there were times 100%. When you and I both were in college where we would have to stay up super late to work on papers 100%. And work, and there'd be times where you have to pull double shifts and you have to hustle and you have to grind. And if you want to make something, go after it, go get it, go hustle. Like you got to do that. But then there's also a point where, I remember they were on the podcast, Tim and Sarah Carroll, right? Yep. And I remember Sarah, she quit a job, and one that I was freelancing for. She quit it because the CEO literally said, "I feel like you're choosing your family over the business, and that's not okay."
See ya.
And she went, "Peace." Because she goes, she goes, really? I'm supposed to sacrifice my family on the altar of your business?
And again, that's
what he did.
That's, again, where you have to keep priorities straight.
Right.
God, spouse, children, if you have those first two. But if not, it's just God, church, or serving others. I say church. It's really serving others, right? Love God, all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the two greatest commandments.
Yep.
But when you have a family, it goes God, wife, children, if you have them, and then serving others. And that's the way it goes. Like you got to keep priorities straight. And there's a balance, because part of taking care of your wife, taking care of your family is the stewardship of, you got to have finances, you got to have the stability, you got to be able to feed them, put a roof over their head like that. Those are important things. And there's some people in other parts of the world that, you know, they struggle. That's the grind just to do. They grind 18 hours a day just to put a little food or, you know, maybe like a stick shack over the roof of their family. And that's okay.
We forget how blessed we are, man.
Rejoice in what God has you in right now, knowing that the situation God has you in, he is going to glorify himself in. We don't have to understand everything. It's okay not to understand everything because we have an all-powerful, all-loving, all-knowing God, our Father, that takes care of us. And if he takes care of the grass of the field and the flowers in the field and the birds of the air, how much more is he going to take care of you? Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. Keep your priorities straight. That's what that whole scripture is about.
And I feel like a lot of people that get stuck in the mundane. Now, there's a song, man, I can't pull it top of my head. And it was one that I kind of clung to after I resigned from Southside after my world went. And it was the nuke. And it was David saying, you know, I used to do this. I used to lead worship at the temple. I used to lead people before the throne of Jesus. I used to be that top guy. And now I'm just chilling over here doing nothing. And I clung to that, you know. And I think there are a lot of people out there, specifically who are listening, where it's like, you know what? You know, the quote unquote higher calling jobs of being a pastor, being a missionary, being a teacher, even people who are like, no, like they're teachers in seminaries or professors or whatever. These ones where it's like you're pouring counselors, therapists, like these where you're trying to help people have better lives. Sometimes we look at those and be like, man, that's a higher echelon of a position because it seems like there's more purpose behind it.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of me making sandwiches for people? Like, there's no purpose in that.
People got to eat.
But I know we can get stuck in that purpose and in that grind and those different things. But, you know, coming from the guy who literally led people to the throne of Jesus in worship and teaching and creating experiences, all those different things, my priorities weren't always right in that. Because there were so many times that I would do that because it was easy. To be honest, it's really easy to be a youth pastor. It's really hard to be a parent to a teenager. And so for me as the youth pastor,
you can send them on their way.
Well, right. And I can create and you are coming to me
you can
on
make
my
it fun.
turf in my schedule.
Yeah, right.
And you know, life gets hard. I mean, I can give you some good advice, but I'm not your parent, you know?
Right.
And now it's like, crap, I'm stuck with this person. Like
and what I tell them and what I do, I influence them, and that's going to dictate their attitude.
And then they don't listen.
Yeah, right.
And then they don't even listen.
Don't even get me started.
And so, but you know, I was talking with Beth. You know, there's that Bible verse: "He who finds a wife finds a good thing," and we found good things. Me and Fuller did because they keep us straight. And well, that could be taken kind of weird. They keep us straight
in both ways.
Closet. Yeah, there you go. There we got kids. But you know, but I remember Beth saying she was like, "You were really good as a youth pastor. You were great at what you did. You have a teenager in the house now. So what are you going to do about it?"
Ooh, the gauntlet has been thrown down.
You used to do children's ministry, and you would teach, you would lead worship, you would do lessons, you would do this. You have a children's, not just kids in the house. I got a freaking I got a bus ministry in my house because we drive basically a bus.
A big bus.
I mean, I got 8 kids in my steed that I'm called to care for. And to be honest with you, I struggle with coasting. Now let's be honest, every parent will say there's some kids that are just easier to get along with. There's easier kids that just, you know, they're less squeaky, so you don't need to give as much effort to enjoy being with that kid. And then there's also the reality of sometimes it's hard based on the season, because like if we're trying to have more like little kid devotions, like the older kids are like, I'm out. And then we try to have to do stuff for the older kids. The little kids are like, let's burn this house down. Like it's like, no, it's hard. It's exhausting. And be honest, by the time they go to bed, I'm like, for your safety, it's better you just go to bed.
So quiet.
And we need that. But then I also know once I go to bed, I'm not done. I got to take care of Lennox, who literally cannot do anything without mom or dad. Right. And there's exhaustion. And the other night, like I passed out. I fed Lennox for his 7 o'clock feeding. I took a we don't call it naps. Beth calls it my pre-sleep because I go to sleep and then I wake up for like an hour and then I go back to sleep.
That's
it's not a
what
nap,
I
it's
do.
A pre-sleep.
It's a dad thing, man.
But a couple nights ago, Beth and I talked for like 2 hours after that, and Beth and I needed that, and we don't get that all the time.
I call it. We're like an old phone, and the battery drains really fast, and we need a quick recharge to keep going for the rest of the night.
It's like your AirPods. When it's dead, it's dead. But you plug in for 30 minutes. Oh, hey, look, I got 2 hours of use out of it.
We're good now.
And so there is that level, and I'm thinking of the people who, and I feel like I could finally connect with those people of, to be honest with you, I never felt like I worked a monotonous job where it was just a day in, day out grind. Like it was work, student ministry, associate pastor, church work is hard work because it's emotionally and it's mentally exhausting.
Right.
But it's also different now where it's like, I could sit there and ask myself of what's the meaning of this? What's the purpose of all of this? Why am I doing what I'm doing? It doesn't really help anybody. But at the same time, it's the fact of, no, I'm able to provide a safe place for my kids who, to be honest with you, many of them were orphans in some ways,
and they weren't from orphans. Good areas.
They're forgotten.
Right.
They were left. They were abandoned.
Right.
And so yes, in our house, I'm able to provide a safe place for them to learn.
100%.
I was telling Beth, I feel like we don't, and I was telling her, I'm ready to get back involved in church ministry. I'm ready to get, not like work full time, but like just get back involved with a small group or serve in our church. Like I'm ready to get back into it.
Yep. I hear that.
Not as a pastor, but just as a servant. I just want to serve.
That's what I do. That's what I got back into it as a small group leader.
Just get back in. But the hard thing is it's not the fact of, we just don't have time. It's the fact of, no, we ain't got the bandwidth. And Beth is always like, don't let that be an excuse for not serving our family because that's a ministry too.
Here's what you do. You have people over to your house.
And that's what we've been working on,
And you let the kids go buck wild in their own space. And
we minister them there.
That way you don't have to worry about them breaking other people's stuff. That's what we do.
My stuff.
They can break my stuff because I'm used to it.
And our house is pretty much kid-proof.
So let them go buck wild and you just have the conversations.
And so to bring it back full circle with the idea of purpose and meaning in life, there are those questions of, are we supposed to go find meaning in life? Are we supposed to create this purpose in life? Because we're all created a little bit differently. Or is it more the fact of, we know that God has set aside good works that He has prepared for us ahead of time. So is it the fact that we just need to find a higher purpose, a higher calling? Or do we just need to look around and go, God, where have you placed me right now? And maybe we just need to grow where we're planted rather than look around and go, no, I need to discover and find my own meaning and purpose and find my own you and manifest this into reality. Or is the fact of, you know what, I'm here. It is what it is. If it's meant to be, let it be, baby, just let it be. And this is what we're called to do in this. Maybe it's a season of life. We talked about like having a calling on your life. Like I have a calling to help people. And I'm like, Beth, I don't feel like I'm leaning in that. She goes, have you seen your crazy group of kids over there? Like we're helping them right now. Yeah. We're helping people through a pod. Like who thought back in the day a podcast would be helping people?
Two dudes in the basement.
What the snap, dude?
We should change podcast name to just
two dudes in the basement. I don't think that would get as many clicks on the good old algorithms of the SEO word. I don't think that as many clicks, man.
No.
But then there's the reality of life is hard but we're able to lean on each other like we talked about before the podcast even started, where I'm like, bro, I feel like you're literally driving this podcast forward right now, and I'm just trying to show up and keep up with you. And you're like, nah, boo-boo, remember the first couple years? It was all you.
Time in a season,
my friend. It was all
friend.
you. And I remember you showing up in your work clothes most of the time.
All the time.
Because you came, got some T-Bell, got gassed up, both physically and mentally, and then we did the podcast, and you went home and slept, you went back to work, and you came back the next week, and it was the same thing over and over.
Grind over and over again, yep. But yeah, I liked what you said of sometimes you just got to look around. It reminds me of a song from the acapella vocal band, AVB.
The what?
That's what they're called, acapella vocal band.
They're from
like the 80s and 90s.
Of course, there's Fuller, folks.
Yeah,
there's the boomer.
Reaching on back on the way back.
Come on, Petra.
But there was a song where they were like, open my eyes so I can see what am I supposed to be.
I know the song.
My feelings get the best of me. Open my eyes so I can see. And it's like a prayer. And it's like, open my ears so I can hear. And then
that's like an old,
man, it's
good. For some reason, I feel like
phenomenal.
I remember the words, but we'll listen to it after the show's done.
But it's 100% what we do, right? Live where God has planted you, right? Open your eyes and see the blessings that you have around you. We tend to get so focused and forget to be reaching back here. I think it was 2020 we did this Thanksgiving episode of being thankful.
Yeah.
So we got to learn to be thankful and look around at what God has given us.
Everything, give thanks.
Even if you have nothing, I'm sure God has given you something like breath in your lungs.
Oh, Oh,
so
it's a feet to walk and a voice to talk. It's some ears to listen to us.
Ears to hears. Yeah. Because if you weren't, you wouldn't be hearing that right now.
That's true.
Anyways, so I think it's very important to continue to look around, count your blessings.
Name them one by one.
Find your fulfillment where God has placed you. Love God, love others.
And maybe that's it, is learn to be content with what we have.
Yeah.
And learn to find contentment in that.
That's the meaning.
And, and I want to end with this quote I brought in from Blaise Pascal,
Oh, Pascal's wager.
Yes, actually.
I know it is.
Yeah. And it says, there's a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every man which cannot be fulfilled by any created thing, but only by God the Creator, made known through Jesus Christ. And that's where I kind of want to end my thoughts. Anything for you, big guy?
That's it, bro.
All right, let's do some fun facts.
Fun fact.
Time for Fun Facts with Philly.
Okay, so side note, bro, you made some fun fact shirts for your kids too, man.
I did some Mario fun facts.
You got some Mario fun facts. So today's fun fact, I guess I gotta ask, is it a Mario fun fact or you got a different one?
It's not. It's actually
I was hoping for Mario.
It's a U.S.
for
president.
some Mario. Have you seen that new movie, the new Mario Brothers movie?
Dude, I own it.
Yeah, we bought it right
there,
away.
Mario. All right, so today's fun fact. Did you know before becoming the 40th American president, Ronald Wilson Reagan served as a lifeguard and saved around 77 people? Did you know that?
That's it?
I didn't know that.
Dang. He was an actor.
Dude, I mean, I haven't saved any people from drowning as a lifeguard. So he saved 77 more than I did.
That's actually impressive.
It's actually, I thought it was interesting. It was a cool
That is really interesting, man. Especially, those lifeguards. It's like that meme where it's like, if you think you're feeling worthless right now, how would you feel about being the lifeguard at an Olympic swimming event?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good fun fact for you, though, man.
A little fun fact here and there.
You know what's another good fun fact?
What's that?
People can hang out with us over in the Facebook land.
We love it.
We got Instagram and we get new followers every day, which is awesome. We haven't been posting over there very much because we've been busy in the Facebook
every once
group.
in a while.
But we have been able to just meet and just engage with so many of you guys. And I have to make a complaint. Can y'all stop changing your profile pictures? Because when y'all change your profile pictures and comment, I go, who's this Jesse dude? Then I'm like, oh, that's the LSU Jesse. Like, I'm like, I don't know who you is because you changed profile picture again, bro. But there's just so many cool interactions over there in the Facebook group. There's people literally all over the world in this Facebook group, and people have been asking questions, both fun questions and honestly some hard, challenging questions, been able to continue the conversation over there. So if you want to engage further with some of these amazing conversations, just go to Facebook, search RTC Online Community, or just look Real Talk Christian Podcast, the Facebook page. Then the page can point you over to the group as well.
And if you haven't already, go over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so when we're on, except for this video, which has had some technical difficulties.
I don't know what happened.
You can see it. So yeah, the internet dropped. That's what happened. But also, if you haven't already, reach out to us at Real Talk Christian Podcast@gmail.com or text us at the phone number 574-400-5352.
I forgot it again. My bad.
We still respond to that number.
We try.
It takes a little bit of time. I'm actually better at responding to texts right now than I am with email. But
really,
it used to be more email than text, and so I don't know.
But we try, guys. We probably get about a dozen messages per day in some way, shape, or form between all the different things.
Right.
And we are so thankful for all those conversations. We're thankful for you. We're thankful for those who have left podcast review, and we're halfway thankful for if you haven't left one yet. So make sure you go leave one. Well, guys, even though we try to get an episode fast, it's still 1 hour 20. So it just be
what it is.
What it be. But we love you guys, and until next time,
take it easy.